Hello and welcome to another Seed to Harvest video, where I show you everything that I do throughout the entire life of this sour Stomper Autoflower from Mephisto genetics. Over time, I'll be ramping up the amount of water that I give this plant while she's in her 7-gallon or 27-liter pot. I'll be applying low stress training and selective de-leafing to help guide this plant towards growing efficiently. And a big thank you to Spiderfarmer for sponsoring this video. As usual, I start my seeds by dropping them into water. I like this method the most because it's very simple and consistent. The seeds will sink after 12 hours on the water if you break the surface tension, but I like to let mine float on top. 4 days later and I've got a 1 to 2 centimeter taproot, so I start to prepare some soil. In 27 liters of Promix-HP, I'm going to be mixing in some worm castings, some Gaia Green 444, some glacial rock dust, and a little bit of extra mycorrhizal. I've been adding about 10% worm castings, so in 27 liters, I'll add about 2.7 liters of worm castings. 11 mils per liter of 444 all-purpose, about 5 mils per liter of glacial rock dust, and about 3 mils per liter of mycorrhizal. Don't forget to wear a suitable mask to protect your lungs while working around dusty soils and dry amendments. The garden is looking a little bit barren right now, but it doesn't take long for things to change around here. My seedling did sink over the last night, but we'll be saving her just in time. This seedling was sitting on the water for 4 days, but I probably could have planted her yesterday. I don't think that's a big deal though. The larger that your taproot is, the easier it is to plant and position your seedling. The soil is very dry, so I'll be using 500 mils of dechlorinated tap water to water in the seedling. Since she still has a shell, I add a humidity dome cut from a plastic bottle. I'll also be running this Autoflower under 18.6 light. Two days later, and the seedling is bursting out of the shell. I can never resist the temptation to give her a helping hand. The soil has a little bit of moisture left in it, but it's dried back sufficiently, so today I'll water her with 250 mils of dechlorinated tap water. Two days later, and the soil is dry. Today, she'll be getting 500 mils of dechlorinated tap water. After another 2 days, her soil is dried out again, so I gave her another 500 mils. And 2 days later, she was ready for her final 500 mils. My plants tend to be around this size around day 10, so for this size of plant I like to water them with about 1 liter of dechlorinated tap water, usually by the end of week 2, so around day 14, I like to be giving about 2 liters of dechlorinated tap water. It had only taken about 3 days for the 1 liter to be absorbed and dried, so I figured 2 liters would be no problem. The soil had taken about 4 days to dry out this time, which I think's perfect. But I'm sure that since the roots have grown, the next 2 liters will probably take less time to dry. Usually I like to start training my plants between days 12 and 16, but on day 13, this plant was looking a little bit too small to top, so I figured I'd just let her ride it out for a few more days. When planning to just do low stress training, you can't go wrong by just letting the plant grow out for a few extra days so that her lower branches have a more substantial size to them. The next day after the low stress training, I'm seeing a few leaves that are really looking at me funny. This leaf is acting like an umbrella, shading the growth below. I usually like to keep as many leaves as I can, but I'll remove leaves that are reducing the efficiency of the canopy. Sometimes I'll just tuck them to the sides, but most of the time, it's just easier to remove them. It's been 4 days since the last watering and 3 days since the last training. She's ready for another session. When training a plant with just low stress training, you're going to be constantly fighting the main branch until the lower branches become a similar thickness to the main branch. Usually by the end of week 3, I'll be watering around 3 liters. I'll then continue watering with 3 liters until she's big enough that I think she's ready for 4 liters. I think low stress training is most effective when it's used to balance out a plant. When some of your branches are outrunning your canopy, you can use low stress training to bring those back down to a similar elevation as the rest of your canopy. You can also use LST to position your branches to the left and right to give your branches more spacing. I'll never use low stress training on a branch that is below the elevation of the canopy. This would be counterproductive because it'd be reducing the light intensity that the branch is receiving. Three days later, and I'm really pleased to see that our low stress training is being effective. And it appears to me that our sour stomper is in bloom. To me, the state of this bud site looks to be around the end of week 1 of bloom. Today I'll water her with 4 liters of dechlorinated tap water, which is a little bit much for this size of plant, but since she's transitioning into bloom, I'm expecting her root mass to be exploding with growth. So to facilitate that, I want to make sure that I'm watering with enough water. If you would like to see more from my garden, make sure to check out my second channel, Basement Gardens. If you like what you see, I'd really appreciate your subscription. And a big thank you to Spiderfarmer for sponsoring this video and making it possible. If you're looking to start your new hobby gardening, look no further. Spiderfarmer has kits for just about every tent size. I like to position my inline exhaust fan on top of my tent to save on space. Just make sure to leave at least one vent open at the bottom of your tent so that fresh air can get pulled in from the negative air pressure caused by the exhaust fan. With a setup like this, you can expect your temperatures to only be a few degrees higher than the ambient temperatures in your room. All of Spiderfarmer's lights come with a PPFD map, which can be useful to help you determine where you should hang your lights for optimal light intensity. I like to give my seedlings around 550 to 600 ppfd of light intensity. Some may think that's too much, but I think it's just right. Here's a quick little sneak peek of a Cremetasmo Autoflower, which has been blooming underneath a Spiderfarmer SF4000 that I've added the supplemental lighting to. You can find links for all the Spiderfarmer websites in the description below. Make sure to use code BASEMENT at checkout for an 8% discount. A big thank you to Spiderfarmer for sponsoring this video. It's been 4 days since her last watering, and with her transition into bloom, it looks like she could use a little bit of low stress training to even her out. I start by removing these lowest leaves that aren't receiving too much light or are touching the soil. And right before I do any low stress training, I go ahead and water her with 3 liters of dechlorinated tap water. First things first, this leaf in the central canopy has got to go. She's kinda neat looking though. After applying the low stress training stakes, I take a brief look over the plant and I notice a few leaves that are going to be acting like umbrellas as soon as the plant recovers. Three days later, and I'm a lot happier with how the structure of this plant is looking. There's a lot more space between all of the bud sites, and there's a minimal overlap between the leaves. Each of the bud sites should be receiving relatively equal light. This plant is around the end of week 2 of bloom, so it's time to start mixing some nutrients. In about 4 liters of water, I'll be mixing in 4 mils of CalMag, 4 mils of Diamond Nectar, and 4 mils of Liquid Cool Bloom. I won't be adding any Floranova into the water because there's already enough nitrogen in the leaves judging by the clawing. I just want to give a little boost to the PK and the CalMag supplies so that the buds can bulk a little bit more effectively into bloom. 4 days later, and she's looking a lot more happy today. But she's still got a little bit of the claw. I think this claw is occurring because I've got a little bit too much of the 444 all-purpose mixed into the soil for some of these autoflowers that are blooming so early. But for today's watering, she'll be getting 4 liters with 4 mils of CalMag, Diamond Nectar, and the liquid Cool Bloom. The pH of this nutrient mixture was coming out to around 6.5. Five days later, and these bud sites are really starting to bulk up nicely. Since I had watered the last couple times with nutrient solution, I figured this time I could get away with just watering with straight water. Five days later, went up to 6 liters with 6 mils of CalMag, Floranova Bloom, Diamond Nectar, and Liquid Cool Bloom. Four days later, she got another 6 liters of water, but this time without the Floranova Bloom. Six days later, and the majority of the hairs have started to turn brown. This will happen for most strains, and is a good indication that your plant has started to mature. Today, I just gave her 6 liters of dechlorinated tap water. It's been 7 days since the last watering, which is a little bit long, but that's intentional. During the last week, most of the leaves on the plant shifted purple, and she started to drink water a little bit slower. I figured that she's probably close enough to harvest. But you never truly know how close your plant is to harvest until you check the trichomes. When you're looking to harvest, you want to see between 15 and 30% amber trichomes. The rest of them should be cloudy. Very little of them should be clear. There's no perfect time to harvest your plant, but there's a window of opportunity. It's up to you to decide whether you're happy with a lighter effect or you would like a more mature, heavy effect. For me, I like something in the middle. Well, she definitely passes the density check. This plant has pretty good spacing. I don't feel like I need to leaf strip this plant before hanging her up to dry. Roughly 10 days, give or take, in a dark, cold environment with less than 55% humidity, good air circulation and airflow, and these buds are ready to be destemmed and cured. To dry trim your bud, I just simply pull the leaf off the bud, or I'll rub my fingers against the grain, causing the leaves to pop right off. And our grand total is 71 grams. That's not bad at all for 62 days. I really enjoyed this grow, and I hope you did too. I feel like I'm starting to find the way that I like to grow using organic nutrients. Top dressing and bloom doesn't seem to consistently give me the results that I'm looking for. Instead, I think that I'll use organics as a one-to-one substitute for the Walmart soil as I had originally planned. I'll have to mix a little bit less into my soil, but I'll have more control over my plant's nutrition and bloom. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to stay tuned for my next upload. Another big thank you to Spiderfarmer for sponsoring this video.